With that down, let's move on to this next off the top, and that is this. As a part of that presentation for Disney Plus at D23, which was far superior to the Disney Pictures presentation, but we'll get to that in a bit. But another part of the Disney Plus presentation that caught most people, and I'll speak for myself here, particularly surprised me, was the announcement of 3 new shows. Now, if you had told me, I was saying this to Rob earlier, if you had told me before the presentation started that today during the Disney Plus presentation, Kevin Feige will be announcing 3 new shows, and I could guess what those 3 shows are, there was a slight chance I might have thought Ms. Marvel, just because there's been some whispers about that before. But honestly, wouldn't have been one of my picks. I wouldn't have thought that would be one. I certainly wouldn't have picked the trio of She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Ms. Marvel. Not that I wouldn't want them. I'm just saying that's not what I thought they would have done. And yet they announced She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Ms. Marvel. And Rob, I think I speak on behalf of myself and the rest of the world to say, God, I wish Robert Meyer Burnett were sitting beside me when they announced Moon Knight. I did not think they would do that. I did not think they would go in that direction. And yet they did. She-Hulk. I mean, there's been a lot of question marks surrounding even the possibility of She-Hulk. She's a derivative character, which I'm usually not all that big on anyway. But there's a connection there to the Hulk, and there's some distribution issues with Universal when it comes to the Hulk, but we didn't know what the level of that was. None of us were really thinking She-Hulk. And yet it's She-Hulk. We just had Captain Marvel, but we did hear whispers and rumors that they may be looking at Kamala Khan as Ms. Marvel, which was actually probably a good decision and all that as well. But anyway, Rob, I mean, I've been waiting 3 days to ask you this. You hear about this. We'll get to She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel here in a second, but they've done it. They've announced Moon Knight on Disney Plus. I want to know your reaction, but then after you give your reaction, I want to know this. Everything about that Disney Plus presentation, from High School Musical to The World According to Jeff Goldblum, and Encore with, who's the girl from who's Sarah Marshall again? What's her name?
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell. Encore, another song and dance thing.
Dude, like, Lizzie McGuire in the house.
Yeah, Lizzie McGuire. Very Disney getting back to its very family-friendly roots. And then they announced Moon Knight as a part of Disney Plus, which I thought was interesting. Anyway, Rob, 3 days I've been waiting to hear from you. Take it away.
First of all, I thought I was being pranked. Somebody said, I see the logo, the Marvel Studios thing, and I'm like, is somebody doing this to me? Like, is this, because, I always think everything's about me. And it was I lost my shit. I mean, I really went bananas. And I couldn't believe it. First of all, I couldn't believe it. We've heard rumors and they've been talking about, but of all the characters, I mean, Moon Knight is definitely a second-tier character. Now, and when Moon Knight first came out, of course, he was introduced in the pages of Werewolf by Night. Then he was in the Hulk magazine. And then he was in a couple of I think, a Marvel team-up. And then he was given his own series. His first series was in 1980. And that's when I first started falling in love with Moon Knight, with the Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz run on Moon Knight. And that, to me, is the definitive Moon Knight. But people always said he's a Batman clone. But the fact that they're doing a series is better than a movie, because a movie's only 2 hours long. A series, it's going to be 6 episodes, it's going to be 8 episodes, however many episodes it's going to be. It's going to be 2 or 3 or maybe 4 times as long as a movie, which, to my mind, it's like, we've been getting a lot of great stuff from the MCU, John, but this has been a dream. Since I've been talking on the internet about superhero movies, since you brought me on and Schnepp brought me on in April of 2015, my dream, John, I mean, it might not have been I have a dream to see all people free and equal. My dream has been to see Moon Knight come to life. I have a dream, and that was Moon Knight, and my God, they have given it to me. I can't believe it, but now it's the question, which Moon Knight? Are they gonna show his descent into madness? Are we gonna get the Moon Knight was 4 characters? Remember, he was Marc Spector, Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, and then of course Moon Knight. That was the definitive version. Moon Knight had an alter ego of, Marc Spector is the mercenary character. That's who he really was. Then Stephen Grant was his Bruce Wayne persona. Jake Lockley was the cab driver persona, where he could keep his eyes and ears on the streets to find out what's going on. And then Moon Knight would come in and kick ass. So he was like 4 different characters, and then he kind of went crazy later. He went crazy. I mean, he joined the West Coast Avengers for a while. I'm so excited, John. I'm like, they're giving me everything I want. Everything I want, John. It's a great time to be alive. Even though the Amazon is burning, I'm getting everything I want from the MCU, and by God, I'm a better man for it. And so are all of you.
Now, listen, the question I do have to raise here, and I've been dying to know what you would say about this, is, Moon Knight, there are many different ways to do many different characters, right?
Yes.
Moon Knight, some may suggest, is kind of a violent set of stories. Teetering on, if not crossing the line of R-rated stuff, right? Were you surprised that doing a Moon Knight show, that it wouldn't appear, like if I were to say to you before D23 started, Rob, and I said, Disney's going to do a Moon Knight series. That I can confirm for you, Rob, they're doing it. Now, do you think it's going to be on Disney Plus, or do you think it's going to be on Hulu? Like, which one would you have naturally thought it would lean towards?
That's hard to say. I think it could go either way. I mean, I would prefer, I think, to see it on Hulu. But also, one of the things about the Moon Knight comic is Moon Knight has a girlfriend, Marlene, and he has his best friend in the world, his manservant, but also his pilot, his compatriot, Frenchie. And if they're going to play Frenchie, I don't know how they're going to play that character, but it's going to be interesting to see. It could be a Disney Plus, but I do see this more along the lines of a Daredevil, like what we got on the Netflix Daredevil show. Maybe not that bone-crunchingly violent necessarily, because I always thought one of the things I liked about Moon Knight, and people are going to think I'm crazy, I have a romanticism about the character, because there's a character in that first run called Stained Glass Scarlet, and there's Marlene and the relationship he has. I mean, Stephen Grant, Moon Knight can be played a little romantic and bone crunching at the same time, so it'll be interesting to see how they go. Or if they go with the Mr. Knight and he's dressed in an all-white suit with a mask on his face, it depends, because there's been weird, especially over the last 5 years, they've gone in strange directions with Moon Knight that's very different from where he came from, so it'll be interesting to see. I'd like to see it about a man who sort of loses control or loses himself in trying to do good. The quest to be a do-gooder leads him to a psychotic break that sends him spiraling off into madness. I mean, that could be really interesting.
So let's touch that now then for a minute on the other two announcements, that She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel. What were your quick thoughts on those ones?
Well, first of all, I was thinking, a friend of mine suggested Gwendolyn Christie is playing She-Hulk, but then I thought my man John Campea, I'm like, who should be She-Hulk? Jennifer Garner, dude.
Well, sign me up.
Jennifer Garner, She-Hulk, right there. I'm into She-Hulk. I always loved, especially Byrne's run on the character. I've always loved the She-Hulk character. I mean, a lawyer, and if David Kelly comes aboard and does the She-Hulk character,
she was on the Fantastic Four roster for a while, was she not?
Oh, yes. And She-Hulk's been all the way across the Marvel universe. I love that character. I think it could be great. And, a Miss Marvel character, too. I mean, obviously, Carol Danvers at one point was Miss Marvel. I love I love this idea. And, the idea that they're making female characters like this, I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, She-Hulk is a delightful character. And I think the potential for doing, like, an Ally McBeal with She-Hulk could kick ass.
That could be very, very good.
Oh, who wouldn't love that? And when people are saying, "Oh, it's too woke or it's too feminist," I'm like, you guys are out of your minds. I mean, doing a great She-Hulk series could be awesome, and it's Marvel moving into a different genre. Whether you do a legal procedural that's a cross between, I don't know, whatever, Boston Legal or an Ally McBeal and a superhero show, sign me up.
Chris, you're hearing about these three shows. Which one stands out to you the most?
Oh, man, I'm so excited about them. I'm really into She-Hulk because I really do hope it's that procedural law show, because I think that's going to be so fun. I'm super, super hyped for that. But I think Ms. Marvel, that comic, despite what people have said, because people post all this SJW, blah, 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 those sales show themselves, guys. That comic has done really, really well. Shut your mouths. Kamala Khan is amazing, and we also have the opportunity to have Brie Larson as Captain Marvel come in and mentor her. We get great crossover opportunities here. I think she's an incredible character. Her powers are super, super cool.
Yeah,
it's gonna
they're
be
very fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for people to see that, and it's gonna be fun for more girls to see a hero who looks like them on screen.
By the
I'm
way,
excited
there's
about
something
it.
also to mention. One of my favorite comics of all time is Avengers Annual 10, and it has the introduction of Rogue. First time we meet Rogue of the
Right.
X-Men, stealing Miss Marvel, but the Carol Danvers incarnation, but stealing her powers.
Which leaves us with the Rogue that we know more traditionally.
Right, and man, I would love to see that played out in the pages of that series. That could be a great way to introduce one of the X-Men.
All right, guys. Question is, what did you think about all these announcements? Are these shows you would have expected? Are you excited about this lineup? Let us know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.